We're back from executive session. It is 7:23. Minutes were kept at the executive session, but will not be made public until such time they have no bearing on the operation of the borough. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac? Here. Ms. Renee?
Here.
Mr. Wardell?
Here.
Mr. Kosis?
Present.
Mrs. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Calhoun?
Here.
Mayor Brown? Yeah, Mayor Brown, excuse me.
Here. Okay, we go back in regular session.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add two resolutions. Resolution 19-24, an oral resolution lifting the reverter clause at 7 Overbrook Place. And Resolution 19-125 for an oral resolution appointing Brian Russell as the acting borough clerk and Al Jardine as the deputy clerk and office manager.
Okay, somebody want to second that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kosis. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we will go into, we have no presentations, we will go into public participation for agenda items. Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on any of the agenda items? We're going, just so you know, there will be a open public hearing on the budget, so you're welcome to ask a question, I just may not be able to answer it yet, because we're not in that hearing. Now, anybody from the public wish to be heard on the agenda items? Okay, seeing none, Board of Ed liaison, present? If not, Sam.
No.
Well, we have a member of the Board of Education here, thank you for coming to our meeting, Mr. Westcott. Okay, so we have no old business, we'll move right to new business, resolution 19-118, pending. Offered by Mrs. Lewis. Second. Second by Mr. Calhoun. Any questions?
One question there.
Yes.
A while back, we had changed the way we put forward our bill payment to be more detailed as a collective members of council and members of the audience. Yet it seems we've gone back to the old version. Not that I have an issue with that, I didn't think it was a problem before, but I did notice that we are now going back to the more, I should say, less detailed version. I just noticed the change, and I just wanted to see if you know the touch.
Yeah, I know.
On which part, the resolution? or
No,
the
the
actual bill?
actual.
Yeah, it was questioned a lot in the past, that our bill isn't detailed enough. It was questioned by members of the audience, the residents, Mrs. Strass, and council members were diligent about being detailed on the bill list.
I didn't notice when it actually changed, but I did notice it recently that was what we
Back to the way it was
used to.
always done
I
before.
can switch it back, we actually switched this back in March,
Okay.
and that's what no one really.
Well, we
said.
haven't had,
That's why I let it-
nobody's.
Yeah, nobody's brought to, nobody's complained. So
I
I can see.
I went back to this.
Well,
one
it's the same as it was before.
For paper saving wise,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you wanna go back to the other version again.
No, let's go back to the way we did it, because we have a lot of complaints about the way we were doing the bill list, and we have all the information on there, and we don't have to. Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call.
Mr. Zajac? Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis? Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Resolution, 2019-119, authorizing the police department to dispose of abandoned and unclaimed bicycles and power equipment by public auction.
Offer.
Offered by Mr. May. Second. Second by Mr. Coates. Any questions? I just have one question. The way it's written here, it's that the police department to dispose of equipment and conduct an auction. I don't believe the police department conducts an auction, so I just want to make sure that but that's done by the borough. The police department doesn't have an auction, right?
You do it online.
Yeah, but it's done through it's just police equipment, but it's the.
Yeah, it's still to the
Series
borough, but
also.
it's from the.
Right, no, I'm just saying, but the way it's written is that the police department conducted an auction, you know, we're not giving them anything more. It's through the borough, smiling out there. So I just wanted to clarify that, that's done through the clerk's office and
Right, we'll put the,
municipality.
we'll put the,
That's who's actually having the auction.
everything up through the borough, but it's.
Just don't look for any police
Equipment
cars.
under-
They're not selling any police cars.
Would you like
No,
that to be
just by-
amended?
No, that's fine with me, I just wanted to clarify it. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis? Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted, thank you.
Resolution 2019-120 is, Borough of Neptune City grievance procedure under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
So offered.
Discussed earlier.
Offered by Ms. Renee. Second. Second by Mr. Zajac. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac? Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis? Yes. Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted, thank you.
Resolution 2019-121, approval to read budget by title.
Somebody like to offer that?
So offered.
Offered by Mrs. Lewis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Calhoun. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis? Yes. Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
I need to, did you already read it, you read it by ordinance now? Or by title? Is that how we did it?
Yeah.
Okay. You wanna read just by read title, right?
Yes. Approval to read budget by title, whereas 2019 budget, which was introduced on May 13, 2019, has been advertised according to NJSA 48:4 and has been posted in the municipal building at least 1 week prior to the date of this hearing, and whereas a copy of the same has been made available to each person requesting it during said week and during the public hearing, and now therefore be resolved that having conformed with the conditions set forth in NJSA 48:4-8, the 2019 budget can be finally adopted.
Thank you. I need a motion to open the hearing to the public.
So offered.
Offered by Mr. Wardell. Second by Mr. Calhoun, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are in an open public hearing on the 2019 municipal budget. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Can I, you wanna read, or you have questions for, go ahead, I'm sorry, state your name and address.
Can you object to something in the budget?
Most certainly,
Your opinion?
you are absolutely a resident, you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
George Carey, Myron Avenue, Neptune City. I was listening to the, nice that you had a presentation to explain the participatory capital program. They were from Freehold Borough, I believe, right?
Yes.
It's just that, it sounds good on paper, but a lot of people like myself, we work. I had the night off, that's why I came. But we work, we raise families. We don't have the time to go to committees and do all this kind of stuff. And people, working people, taxpayers are gonna be left out of the process. And I think there's too much room for doing political favors for this group and that group. And it's really unnecessary, I feel. And the way you do it now, I think it works fine. I mean, if I wanna ask a question, Miss Renee's at the Knights of Columbus, I can ask her something when she's volunteering, I could call you on the phone, or always get a call back. And, I have a friend that lives in Freehold Borough, he told me their deficit is $8.9 million or something. So I don't know how good, how their system is working. What's the deficit in, Neptune City? Do we have a deficit?
Now we want to keep it that way.
You don't have one. So apparently, you know, you're doing something right the way you're allocating the money instead of going to this system. That's just my opinion. You know, I wanted to give that. As far as I'm just reading from the coaster here. The 40,000 for the planner. I wanted to ask, what is your plans for development? You know, are you gonna have a designated developer? I mean, you know, I'm a little nervous when I hear the government get involved in the government gets involved in the free enterprise system, so to speak. You know, I'm from Asbury Park originally. I live in Neptune City now because I got run out of Asbury by the redevelopment plan. And it was the plan, when the government gets involved with this Long Branch or Belmar, the taxpayers end up paying for it. And if you start giving them money for a planner, you're basically subsidizing the redevelopment on our money, on our dime. So I think that's something you should think about. I mean, look what happened in Belmar. They're getting a 21% tax increase now. Now the mayor, that was part of it, he gets a job, with a six-figure job with the state. You know, it's not, you can't do it on the backs of the taxpayers here, and that's what I feel you're doing when you start giving money to planners and things like that. They've got money, they wanna come in and develop, they're gonna come in and develop, it's the market. They'll do their market studies and so forth. If it happens, it happens. But once the government gets involved, there's usually a price to pay. And I see unforeseen costs too, because what's gonna happen is, once you designate a development area, a redevelopment area, the people that own those properties, are they gonna be subject to eminent domain? What is your plan for this? They're gonna maybe object to things, they're gonna take you to court, it's gonna cost you money for lawyers to fight. It starts at 40,000, but then there's the unforeseen costs. And, if that happens, what's your plans for meeting the budget the following year? You're gonna raise their taxes, you're gonna cut back on services, you gotta do something. I don't wanna see it done on the backs of the taxpayers, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Mayor, are we allowed to answer some of those questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as the participatory budgeting, it's all part of the capital
Yeah, I
plan.
understand
So
that.
that money's
Already there.
already in the capital budget. It's for projects, it's just doing it a different way, so it's not adding anything.
I understand that.
And it's not anything additional, it's just a different, we're trying to make it do the opposite of nepotism. We're trying to make it so that the public decides what's being done, no political favors, it's.
But who decides in the end?
You guys do, you all vote.
Yeah, but everybody doesn't participate in this, because people got lives, they got work, they got 2-3 jobs just to pay the taxes in town here. And they don't have time to come down there and, you're cutting a big portion of the community out by doing it that way. Whereas the way you have it now, if I have a problem, I come to you, or I call somebody on the phone, you're accessible. Like you said, it's already in the budget, I understand that. It's just the way you're starting to spend the money. I don't think that's fair.
Well,
I understand the fear of doing something new and different, and I understand that, because new things are, oftentimes if you've never seen it done before, it's scary.
Well,
It's scary.
it's scary when they have an 8.9% deficit, 3-0 borough, and we don't have it, so.
We're not raising the
Not
taxes, we
yet.
don't plan on it.
Not yet.
It's all part of the capital plan.
That's why we kept the money low.
That's why we kept it low.
And you're gonna have people fighting over crumbs, $20,000, they're gonna be fighting over crumbs, but over 5 years, it's $100,000.
Yes, it's part of the civic engagement too, and trying to get more people involved, that haven't been involved. So we're trying to be as open as possible, and trying to be as engaging as possible, and try to, make it available to as many people as possible. And as far as the economic development portion goes, again, we're not getting a loan for any of this,
I
and we're not
understand.
raising taxes, and it's not a particular property per se. We've had economic development plans here in Neptune City in the past. We've done it in the past. It just hasn't been talked about as much in the past. It's been done.
I'm familiar with it, I'm not picking on anybody here, party-wise, because years ago, they had a redevelopment plan on Steiner Avenue, and the eminent domain was used, and we were part of a group in Asbury who came and stood up for the homeowners there, so, I'm not picking sides here on anything, it's just that,
That's not
there's a
part-
lot that is not being said,
Well,
It's not- that's not
that's
part of
all
the
I'm saying.
okay, so, thank you. I'll talk about that real quick. As far as the last redevelopment process that went similar to, in this direction, we did not spend anywhere near that kind of money, to start out. The borough didn't. But I do know that it costs businesses and homeowners a lot, and the residents at the end of the day, a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when it got to freehold, the whole plan was eliminated anyway, so it was.
Right.
There was a lot of money spent, a lot of meetings. I see some folks in there, in the audience that came to all those meetings, they listened to what, and it was their, you know, when you do and you go put somebody's property or their, you know, because you think as a governing body, that you think their property would be more valuable to you than it is to them, they will fight back. And when they fight back, not only do you lose a good business or a friendly business, because it costs them a lot of money. I know some folks that spent $40,000 and
But doesn't it cost the
$50,000.
town? Doesn't it cost the town money too? 'Cause you gotta.
Well, you have to fight, you're right,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying, and then it
That's
costs the
another cost.
taxpayers, because you're in court, and you're having multiple meetings, so, I know it goes on, it goes on in Asbury, it's going on in Long Branch, we're Neptune City, we're 1 square mile, I really, you know, I'm not in favor of it, you know, but that's irrelevant.
Part of it too is that in our master plan, we've been calling for a town center. It's been in our master plan for 20
Yeah,
years.
I know.
And, you know, every 5 years, we say yes, 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 and then no steps are taken toward it. It's making steps to adhere to our master plan that, you know, the people before us had a vision for.
What
Well,
is
the
your
master
master
plan needs to be
plan?
amended,
Like,
too.
I don't understand what the master plan is.
Every town has a master plan, for their town, like a different
Well,
parts.
I'll explain.
Oh, thank you.
So what happens is the governing body and the land use and zoning board, here in Neptune City, we have just the land use board because we're under 10,000 people. You kind of come up with an idea of what you would like to see in the future. And by law, we have to present this plan to the state. And I'm not saying that it's perfect, but you know, that master plan it's listed as town center. In that zone, in that area where the shopping centers are and everything. And it was kind of a town center, it's a shopping center there, but the other buildings are in that area too, which is the old Two Guys, which if anybody remembers Two Guys. You know, it's a vacant building now, and that's been the topic, that people tried to redevelop it, they tried to do something with it. There's a deed restriction on the property. This governing body chose not to lift the deed restriction, but instead, I know we want to include that parcel in a area in need of redevelopment. And then apparently with the plan, which I haven't seen or anything about what the plan is yet, other areas in Neptune City that Ms. Renee says are blighted. But, you know, these are all, most of them are privately owned parcels of land. And once you put something in an area of need of redevelopment, and you declare it an area of need of redevelopment, not only does it take a long, long time, there could be some opposition from the actual owner, because it costs money. And in that particular case, and I know I'm picking on Third and Union, that development, that project right there, it's not going anywhere. The people do not want to develop it. We could declare it anything we want. It would take it's gonna take a long time to declare that an area of redevelopment. They will be long gone out of business, bankrupt, and it'll be sitting there before a developer comes in, once picked, and, you know, it's a long, long road, redevelopment.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to look at a scope over what some areas in Neptune City, but do we need to spend that kind of money to find out? Nah, I don't know. I disagree with it, but again, that's just my opinion. That's what you elected me to do, is give my opinion on things. We don't have to necessarily always agree on it, but I've been here a long time. I've lived in Neptune City a long time, and that's how I see it. And, you know, I am in touch with residents too. You know, I know quite a few people in town, and, you know, I think I speak for them as well.
So just on
Yes.
that also, just one more question.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Celeste Clark, Postal Village, and, just a question, is that like public record what this master plan is, that we can look at?
Yes.
If we wanna take $40,000 of our tax money, what that's going to, what it's gonna do for us,
So,
you know, as taxpayers.
yeah, so the master
That's a
plan
lot of money.
exists. That's something, like I said, that exists. Every town has one. And a lot of times you put in there what you'd love, what the town would love to see. You know, you'd love to see certain things, you'd like to see a certain area, like Route 35 corridor, we'd love to see, you know, that's a, we'd love to see more, commercial retail space. And no matter what Neptune City really wants to see, we could put that in our master plan, but the people who own that property, if they don't see that as a viable, turnover for their investment, 'cause that's what they're here for, you know, anybody own a business, you know, you're in it for, you know, you're not supposed to be nonprofit. Your goal is to capitalize on your investment. And so it could be our wishes as a borough, but if the property owner doesn't see that turnover or that, investment return for them, you know, they may not like to find out that we put their property in, that we're trying to turn their property into redevelopment. Because they would probably maybe like to do something themselves with it.
Okay,
Some gentleman's
thank you.
Good. Mr. Chung.
Hi, my name's Corliss Chong. I've been a resident here for 59 years. Yeah, I know, right? So I wanted to speak to two things regarding the budget. First of all, I agree. Neptune City has always been very responsible in their budgeting process. You know, as being a former person on the Board of Ed and land use, and, you know, it's always been, we've been very conservative with what we've done in the past. That being said, I think it's not a bad thing to look at other options. I know, you know, we've gone through the budget process. I know the public has always been invited to that. But when it comes down to it, really, you know, if you were even to look at the governing body, it's, you know, it's a handful of people. And unfortunately, I'm just like one of those. I get involved in my day-to-day life. I rely on, you know, a handful of people to make those decisions. I don't think it's a bad thing to have more people involved in that. You know, look at it, see it. I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'm saying I don't know. But I don't think it can hurt by looking at that process. As far as, you know, taking a look at, asking an expert to look at our master plan is not a bad thing. You know, having been on the land use board, I see numerous applicants where industrials encroaching on residents, you know, have to deal with commercial properties, and it's just because of how it developed in Neptune City. You know, things started growing, things started getting built without really, you know, yeah, this was a great idea by itself, but we really didn't have the foresight to see how that might have affected something else. So by bringing in someone, and I know 40,000 sounds like a lot, but to bring that expertise so we don't find ourselves 15, 20 years down the line, you know, in that situation. You know, I think there's a big opportunity for Neptune City. I really do. With everything that, you know, having been here for so long, I've seen it. I've seen it get better. I've seen things happen. I've seen more planning, more thought. And I think that by continuing that, you know, I think it's a good thing. And to have someone come in and, you know, I think would be money well spent, you know, to help. We don't have to go with exactly what they say, but if it's already in the budget, you know, we hire experts all the time. We hire engineers, we hire lawyers, we hire, you know, feasibility studies. Here's someone that could help us take a look at the entire picture, and maybe give us some suggestions. And I think that's a good thing, you know? And I just wanted to finish off is that, you know, this is the first council meeting I've been to in a long time. And you know, I just want to thank everyone on the council for really dedicating the time they spend. I know everyone else could be home watching TV after working full-time and doing all of those things. And I just want to reiterate that I know we're going into an election, that the residents in Neptune City have more things in common than don't. Everyone thinks about their family, everyone thinks about their schools and their children, and they just want a better place. And sometimes we all don't agree on that. And I just, you know, and I just hope, you know, that's just my own personal thing, having seen everyone, I have all the utmost respect for everyone that's been in public office, that spends the time that, you know, there, you're not getting any paychecks or anything like that, you just get a lot of grief up there. So I just want to thank everyone for that. And you know, so, and I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I appreciate that. But recap, I think it's a good thing that we get some experts on the, you know, on the master plan, thank you. And then participatory budget, find out some more about it. Maybe it's not the answer, but I think it's a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Just 2 years.
Yeah, it's, the experts aren't, the experts that we're talking about that the money's for is not to get an idea of the master plan. It's to look to make areas to redevelop. It's not the master plan. The master plan's in place. And the master plan can be modified at any point. It can be changed. But thank you so much for your comments. Yes.
Joe Petroni, 95 Riverview. And gentleman over there, and he said pretty much everything, but when we talk about the participatory budget, we're talking, what, $20,000 over 20, the next 5 years, 100,000, something like that, is that the number?
It's 120,000.
120,000, right, okay. So, you know, we're, out of that total budget, tell me how much percentage that is. You know, I'm not a mathematician, I went to law school, but, that didn't help either. But, you know, we have it's a small piece, and it's really for a small project. I don't think this is like taking over and let the people take over. You know, we hire you to represent our best interests, okay? We want transparency. A lot of things I hear at the time, I find out things only when questioned. Oh, yeah, we have that. Oh, yeah. And this is a transparent process from A to Z. And it just adds a little something. I don't think there's any other town in the shore here that's gonna do this, right? I don't think any other, we'd be the first to do something like this. It's not gonna kill us, to quote East Point, okay? It's not gonna kill us. And it's something that, you know, to your point, Mayor, you said, yeah, well, you know, we're allowed to talk about anything and, you know, question everything, that's great. But maybe I have an idea that you didn't think about. I know that might surprise you.
Then we want to hear.
Right. You know, and I've only been here 3 years, but I've been to, and by the way, I've been here 3-4 years, but I did go to a couple of the Neptune City days. I helped, the other day, Dave and I went out and handed flyers out. So I'm trying to participate to the extent I can. I even quit my job, so I have more time to do that, but anyway. So, and when we talk about the redevelopment, I think the key is, you know, spending this $40,000 sounds, and again, and I agree, Mr. Waddell, I get the idea, like, you know, where's the result? Where's the payback? The payback is understanding. For instance, you talk about that 3rd Avenue, right? And I feel for these people that paid whatever they paid for this, and for some reason didn't know about the deed restriction, okay? But that's beside the point. But until and unless we really look, and you said it earlier in another meeting that there was some, you know, a lot of redevelopment. When I heard that night when the lawyer got up on the proposal, we called IKEA. That to me was not enough. That wasn't them thinking out of the box, pardon the pun, right? And I think that this is a way to think outside of the box. If it turns out that there's nothing you can do with these things, or if it turns out, to your point, that it's just the feasibility isn't there, okay? We should all know that. If it costs $40,000 to find out and we have alternatives, so be it. It's not like we're running an $8 million deficit. You know, I did not know that Neptune City did not pay for Neptune City debt, for instance. I didn't know that. I assumed that there was a line item, and then you had contributions from people, and I said, well, that's great. So when you say the tax money goes, I wanna know where the tax money goes. I would like that. You know, when I think of a budget as what we are going to spend, not what we are going to save. Responsible spending is what we want. This is, none of the things that were being mentioned tonight is irresponsible. You may not like it, or you might think it's the best use, but it's certainly not irresponsible. You know, and I think we need to look at it in the long term. You know, you were 25 years, and I moved here, so you obviously did a good job.
A lot of people
You
think
always,
so.
but the point is, the last 10 years, we've seen unprecedented growth. We don't want a president, we don't want Asbury Park, we don't want, but again, people like me, I'd like to walk to the stores. You know, when I went down to, you know, you talk about all the people with the developers. Roccasano owns a lot of property, there's a lot of empty property. What's his goal? What does he wanna do? You know, he could be involved in the discussions of where we wanna go with that.
He's been involved in
No,
this.
I
and
get
he's-
that.
And he's trying to rent a space, but.
Right,
and
right,
like
but then he raised rates.
Like he specified to the council,
Yeah.
retail is a dying
Yes.
thing. It's not just here in Neptune City. He owns,
Well, you wanna know why
they
I know
own
that?
multiple.
Right, I walked into those buildings that he built, right, and yeah, they're huge. How did he make it work? I don't know. Even the place, Second Chances, where he raised the rent about 40%, okay? And they had to leave. That's fine, he's entitled to that, he's a
Yeah,
private
that's
entity.
a business, but it's a
That's
business
exactly
decision,
right,
not our
but
decision.
you can't, you know, but he built these things, you know, and that's relatively new, right? That building where Second Chance.
No, it's 1970s.
Wow, what? Really?
It's been
What
renovated.
draws it? Looks pretty new.
It's been renovated.
But okay, it's been renovated, but it's huge, you know? And I mean, I'm a person that doesn't know from planning, but I'm saying split those, make it 8 stores. There's ideas.
But again,
Where are they?
that's
Right.
that's his business. He can leave them all
I
empty if he wants.
completely
That's-
agree with that.
that's the
We
one.
don't own it,
Yeah.
but I live here and I pay taxes, right? So
Yep.
I can have a say. You don't like what I say, that's different.
Well,
But I
absolutely.
can have a say. And the point is that unless and until we all understand exactly what we can and can't do, and if that $40,000 tells us, okay, here we are, where we're going from there, I think it's worth the while. And my taxes went up about, I don't know, $3,000 since I've been here, so I'm paying almost 10% of that 40. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Kelly Strauss is 3 Brook Place. Just to add, I agree totally with both Donna and Torley's about the economic development and about the PB budget. I think that they're both great ideas, and our master plan, how much money did we spend on it each time we did it, and nothing was done, and nobody questioned that. Like, that was a lot of money. And to me, I feel like I tell my kids, you educate yourself, you go to school, you figure it out, you're worth it. And I feel the same thing about our town. I think that we're worth spending the money on. I have seen industry in my backyard. I have seen industry here that happened without anybody sort of, I know people knew about it, but at the same time, there was no questions. This is all happening with all of us participating. I would really like to know a better way for Neptune City for the next 25 years. I've been here with my husband for 31 years, and I'm very delighted that I see a change. I have new neighbors who want to buy in my neighborhood because they see the value here. But if we have storage units or another TFH somewhere without an expert coming in to say, you know what, let's make this downtown. Let's make it I don't know, a farmer's market or a whatever. You know what I mean? I just feel like we've never done this. We need to ask people's opinion.
Well, I
And
appreciate
yes,
your.
I respect you, but I have an opinion, and that is my opinion, that I agree that we need to ask the experts.
But I appreciate your opinion, but I've said this earlier, there's not a single project that has gone on in Neptune City that has not been publicly noticed. The people surrounding the properties that were developed, that they were noticed directly, if you were in a certain distance. There were hearings, there were land use board, there were, I'm going back, all the way back, because some of these properties are back when we still had a planning board and a zoning board. There were hearings in front of them. There were, those meetings, you know, took place. The residents were notified. There was publications, it was in the news. So it's always been out there. Now, are there more people maybe
Yes.
paying attention?
Mhm.
But, you know,
That's
it's
the
not that they weren't, it's not that that information wasn't out there. I'm gonna go back to what this young man over here said earlier. You know, a lot of people, you know, you have jobs, you're raising a family, you get, you know, and you were busy. You know, maybe now you have more time to.
I was at a
hey,
lot of those meetings, I
you
just
know.
happened to be by myself. I didn't have my.
But I know
neighbors
that,
come
but those
up.
meetings existed, so that's what I'm trying to get. I mean, it's not like Neptune City for the past 25 years has been just, you know, doing everything without, you know, we've done everything we could to keep everybody involved.
Maybe we need to change the tone. Maybe I need to say, I want this for my future. I don't want any more industry. Maybe I wanna say,
And you
so
have that
for
right to
me,
say so.
this is what I wanna see. Maybe it has nothing to do with what happened in the past. Maybe I wanna make it happy and a jewel by the sea, and I want to see what's going on all around us. And I think that participatory budget means that maybe we will get even more people here. And I have been seeing these meetings filled for months now, and probably 3 years I've been seeing them fill up, which is a really good thing. So if we keep doing it, maybe that's good and it'll help everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, this young man up front, sorry.
Younger.
Yeah.
My name's Ted Wardell. I live at 121 3rd Avenue. For those of you who don't know where that is, my house faces the parking lot of TFH building we've been discussing, right next door to the community center. So I'm very centrally located to the area we're discussing. And my reason for coming here tonight, if I'm going to share it a little bit more, was to kind of advocate for the idea of these storage units that would be across the street from me.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're in the budget hearing, so if this is related to the budget, then please continue.
Well, basically what I was gonna say was, extending that a little bit further, it seems to me that the argument in the room right now, reminds me of the old saying, you know, like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. But it seems to me that we're letting go of the bird in the hand without really any knowledge of what's in the bush. And if that's what's holding up good decisions, in my opinion, those storage units would have been good decisions for the towns, a very low traffic, quiet, business that is in a building that's currently empty. I guess I want to share the opinion that someone who was very closely was in favor of that, and it sounds like some plans that this budget is encompassing is what may have held up that decision. And I feel that may have been a quick and uninformed decision, taking too big of a risk.
Okay, so, thank you. I'll go back a little bit on this. That property in mention, in question, we did have the borough planner do a planning report on that property. The planner's report, which we appointed the planner in February, the planner's report did state that pretty much anything you wanted to do there, the deed restriction on that property would have to be lifted. You could also, and a recommendation, you can read the planner's report, it's available, I think we have it it's on the borough website. The planner said, and we talked about it that night, we could have actually lifted the deed restriction, allowed them to develop the property, and still put them in an area in need of redevelopment, which could have improved the value of their property, and down the road, turned it into something totally different. But in order to do that, basically, no matter what happens from this day forward, that piece of property will eventually need the deed restriction lifted. Otherwise, you'll do nothing. So, but meanwhile, it's probably going to sit vacant for quite some time. So we did have, the governing body did have the opportunity to lift that deed restriction. They could have developed it and included it in, very easily included it, we had legal advice and the planner's advice that we could have done that. So I understand your concern, but I mean, that is the facts and on that.
Okay.
Does anybody else wish to be heard
May I
on the
add-
budget?
Mayor,
Is it got to do with the budget?
Yes, but it has to do with Mr. Wardell's question. As far as the deed restriction goes,
Well, that's,
it was
okay.
offered at the end of last year for the council to make a motion to lift that. Not a single member of the council made a motion to lift that deed restriction. So there was not a
that's why I
single member who, and that was before the, planner was involved or anything, so that was at the end of last year. So, it seemed to be that whoever was on council at the end of last year, it was all in agreement that it wasn't, we had a lot of people in the public that didn't want it.
I know, and that's
But
the main
thank you
reason
for
I'm here.
coming, because you're the first person from the public that has mentioned that you do want it, so
I
thank
would
you
love
for
it.
coming.
So we'll go back to that. So, yes, last year, at the end of the year, nobody would make a motion, but we were making we would have made a motion, a decision, uninformed. That's why the planner did a full report, and then it came in front of this council again, and we still said, no, we'd rather put it in redevelopment. So that option was there to lift it and still do the redevelopment, but the governing body chose not to do so.
Actually, correction, there was never a motion made to lift it since the planner's report.
You never took a vote, no, but it was there to, what, do you wanna make a motion tonight to lift it when we're done with this?
I don't want to.
Maybe somebody will, because that was an option. In 5 years from now, that, in 18 months, that'd be a $10 million rateable, all cleaned up over there. And then you can turn it into redevelopment later, but,
Basically, my reason was to express my disappointment, but also that I feel that it was financially driven because of these other plans. And for the record, as someone who lives there, I think we have a wonderful town center already.
thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard on the 2019 budget? I know we're getting a little off.
Arlene Sharappa, 14 Tucker Drive. I think pretty much the other people have spoken in favor of the participatory budget is my feelings as well, in terms of the fact that it's going to involve the people in the town, it's going to involve maybe the youth in the town. I heard it mentioned that you might be going into the school systems and getting some great ideas from kids as to projects that they might want to see. You're talking about $20,000, which is probably just a little bit more than one, my paying taxes, one house in this community. So I don't see $20,000 as being a whole heck of a lot of money. And I think if you were to spread it out over every single taxpayer in town, I'm not a mathematician either, so I can't imagine what it would amount to for each individual taxpayer. In terms of this whole redevelopment, one of my concerns about the whole project with the Third Avenue and what you're talking about, Ted, is that we've seen what happened with TFH and how they started out with a small building and then they put on an addition and then they put on another addition. So right now you may be looking at a parking lot, and it's not even a nice parking lot, okay? There are people who are going to be looking at, right behind their backyard, they're going to look at storage units. Once we approve that as an area where they can put in a warehouse, who's to say that parking lot isn't now going to be a place where they can put more storage units? Who's to say it's not going to be in some of the other, that's one of the fears that I have. And I think that one of the things that's going to happen if we bring in this planner and we put the money in there for the planner is we can look at the zoning in that area. And I think once the zoning might be changed to a zoning that we can all comfortably live with, you might get other people who, with that particular deed restriction on it, maybe we will lift the deed restriction, but only for certain types of business, not to be a warehouse type of district. And once you lift that deed restriction, maybe we'll get other developers in there who might be interested in doing things that might be compatible with our master plan. So I'm just going to say that I do think that we all really need to kind of breathe and take a step back and say we all have to work together, because I think everyone here in this building right now, in this room right now, wants to see Neptune City be a better place to live. It's a great place to live, and let's keep it that way.
Thank you. Jen?
Jen Coombs, I'm asking, I put this question on 2 different Facebook accounts. Everybody has different visions for Neptune City, and this always comes down to costs. Budget, 20,000 there, 40,000 there, 50,000, whatever. But what is the vision does everybody want for Neptune City? I wanna know that.
I wanna be able to stay here. and be able to-
Leave it the hell alone.
I wanna be able to afford to stay and live in Neptune City. That's why I'm always so critical of the budget. That's what I've been taught, and that's what I do, because I own property in Neptune City too.
I wanna know from each and every one of you council members, what's your vision for Neptune City?
Well, let's do that, if you wanna ask that at the next, public participation on any and all items.
I'm gonna do this tonight.
You can do it tonight, but
Okay.
let's talk about the budget. That's what we're talking, we're in a budget hearing for those concerned about the 2019 budget. It's great to see so many people come out and care so much about Neptune City. That's,
Did you have a question? You had your hand up.
I just wanna say, no matter what I say, you know, you guys are going to vote for this, and I get that. And my neighbor was wise in saying that I couldn't disagree with these guys more, and we should have disagreements, and also agreements. So it doesn't mean that we don't like each other. And what I think is happening here, and what she finds acceptable, and they find acceptable, I find unacceptable. To spend $20,000 or $40,000 on a dream, on a potential dream, is not fiscal good management. It's to spend $40,000 saying, I hope somebody, sometime, comes up with an idea that we might be able to execute in some manner, in some way, scares the hell out of me. It just does. That's not how money is meant to be spent. And as far as the participatory budget, and I said that in one term, I might add, I don't see the need for it. And one of the things that the Freehold got, bear in mind, this has been eligible for all municipalities for 10 years. One municipality in Monmouth County is doing it. Not 2, not 5, not 10. One is doing it. That should throw a red flag. When the gentleman was talking, he's no longer a councilman, so he shouldn't have presented himself that way. He's a retired councilman. When he was talking about some of the parameters. Some of the parameters is that it has to go to debt service. That's when I start getting scared, okay? When these people, 14 years old, want to spend my money and put it on debt service so I can pay interest on it, I have an issue with that. I really do. It's just insane. And the last thing I'm gonna say, I've heard so much reference to this master plan, and then, if you read your master plan, you read it carefully, the last master plan told all of you, you better leave TFH alone, make sure they stay in town. I don't know if you've read your master plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, so, and I've heard so many derogatory things about TFH, and I don't wanna join sides one way or the other, I don't. But just bear in mind that that's what your master plan is telling you to do. Do everything in your power to keep that particular, they mentioned it by name, keep it in town. And what I've seen at these meetings is everything in your power to kick these guys out. So, that's all I got.
thank you.
Yep.
Tim Brown, 69 Laird Avenue. I'm gonna butcher it, but the participatory budget. Is there a criteria already created from somewhere? Does it come down? So what are the administrative costs for that? I mean, we're putting $20,000 in the budget, but how are we creating it? How are we paying? Who are we paying? Is there somebody on a higher level? And is Freehold the only town in the state of New Jersey that's doing it?
So I could answer some of that.
Well,
First
wait,
of all,
wait,
I
that's part
can't
two.
answer all.
I got part two.
Can I do part one first?
Okay.
So as far as all the other stuff, I've not seen, nothing has been, I know I'm only the mayor, but absolutely nothing other than a theory and putting putting this money aside for it has been presented to me. A little bit of like what Freehold Borough has, the way they do theirs and, but I've not really seen, nor I think any of the rest of, maybe some of the council have, but I personally have not seen any real plan on how that is going to move forward.
I don't necessarily, as my opinion, think it's a bad idea. I just think it's almost putting the cart before the horse. If we don't have criteria, we don't have administrator, we don't have committee, we have nobody in place, there's going to be fees incurred.
So we're taking 20,000, is that gonna come out of that 20,000? And as far as letting the youth decide, we've tried that in the past, when we've done student municipality days, for years, we did it here, up until the last, I don't know, 5 years.
Yeah, somebody
And
took
we
that.
always ask them, and we'd always go to the school and say, what would you like to see? And it was always an in-ground pool at the community center. But, it was that type
They were
of stuff.
consistent.
But again, it's almost like, should we have a plan in place before we're collecting the taxes and going into debt services? And I have another one. So as far as the budget goes and the planner's report for the 40,000, at the budget workshop, it was stated that it was going to be for the entire town. It was stated that the planner's report was supposed to cover the whole town. Tonight, I'm understanding it to be just over there in those couple of areas. I'm confused. What is it going to cover? And if it is
I
gonna
think
cover the
it's-
whole town.
I think it's the whole town.
Okay, so if it is something that's gonna cover the whole town, is it covering residents? Is it covering private residents, not just businesses? Is it covering, I know we have approved subdivisions in this town that have never moved forward. Is it including all of those? Is it what is it, is it the whole town or is it those sections?
Well, until a RFQ is put together and sent out, I don't think anybody on the council,
But
unless
don't we
somebody's
have
already,
to, but we have to have the criteria to add to the RFQ?
I have to wait and find out.
Mayor, may I?
Sure.
We've discussed it in our committee meetings, with the Economic Development Committee and, in the workshop meetings. And, it's not necessarily a redevelopment plan for the whole town, but it is a plan for the whole town of possibly rehabilitation. Those are the things that we wanna look at.
But is it
We want
covering the whole town or is it only covering Third and
the
Union?
whole town? Now, that area might be designated as.
No, I'm
an
not
area of
asking what's
need.
designated, I'm saying what's going to be looked at, because where does it stop? If it's gonna cover private residencies too,
Properties that are already for sale.
But you're making statements that,
is that property for
do
sale?
you already have
For sale?
something in place?
No, it's just what we're
Again,
talking about.
I have not gotten any of this information.
It's
Well, that's
not-
what I'm saying.
it's not that we need to approve the money for it first.
Well,
Yes, we need to decide.
all right, so that's about.
Well, no,
the
I'm
redevelopment
asking about
plan.
the criteria that's going to be presented to the planner for them to do the report on. That's where I'm at, is it the whole town, or is it
That's
I-
something
just
that,
those Third and Union? And who's determining what's blighted and what's not blighted?
that's the discussion that the council needs to have, but first of all, we have to be in agreement that the money's there for smart development.
But I
to
almost
begin
think the discussion should have happened before you're hitting the taxpayers.
with. The discussion did take place in the Economic Development Committee meetings and the workshop meetings before. We had those discussions, and the questions, were asked and answered at those times, but I'll be glad to answer them again if you would like for me to.
These are some of the things I actually brought up in the economic development meetings, we're seeing concerns that I had about how this money is getting allocated, what is the plan going forward. So it was brought forth before,
Okay.
this is not something that I have not brought up in these meetings before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, can I make some comments?
Oh, wait, I got one more in the back.
Brian Thomas, Bennett Avenue. I just have a question about the lifting of the deed restriction. And it's more, I guess it'd be geared to Mr. Cannon, because it seems like a legality issue. If this proposal goes through, I've asked this question before, and it's ultimately decided that the deed restriction should be lifted. What happens when this owner and, the process goes through and decides for redevelopment, deed restriction gets lifted? What options does that have owner? Does that allow him any kind of legality to bring against the municipality, against the borough?
Maybe I'm not understanding. They're two totally separate things. One is governed by contract and one is governed
Right,
by
but the
regulation.
one issue with the presentation of the storage facility, for instance, one issue is because there's a deed restriction blocking, correct?
Correct.
So, if the deed restriction is eventually lifted, okay, for something else, for a different proposal, does that open up the borough to a lawsuit? That's what I'm asking.
No.
If they're no longer the owners, is that what you're saying, and then we lift it?
No, if they are the owners,
No.
and the deed restriction's lifted, to go along with, some kind of redevelopment proposal, and his buyer, the person who's gonna be in the storage facility, was blocked because they weren't able to have a deed restriction lifted.
He's saying
I
at a later
understand
date.
that.
so
That
you don't-
people
That's
lie.
my major concern, because the
All right.
borough.
He's asking,
I understand.
he's asking the attorney.
I understand your question. So you're asking is a cause of action arise if later on you essentially change the rules when the guy relied on them now?
Right.
The answer is no. The Tort Claims Act, in the state of New Jersey exempt public entities from that kind of liability. Otherwise, anytime the government changes its mind, you could have potential right of action. So, I understand your point about the unfairness or fairness, to the property owner, but public policy has said it doesn't matter for that property owner because otherwise people would always be second guessing the government. And that's more damaging than the unfairness that
Sure.
that could potentially happen. So that's the answer.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Darlene Fischello, Bennett Avenue. So if the deed restriction is lifted and somebody goes in as a contractor, they can build apartments, they can build condos, they can build
No.
whatever they want?
So that's the dichotomy I was referring to before. There's a difference between the deed restriction and the zoning regulations. So the deed restriction is independent completely of what we're talking about right now, which is potentially changing the zoning. The study that we're talking about, the $40,000 I mentioned earlier, as I understand it, is basically talking about what a redevelopment area is. It redevelopment area in Midtown, and if so, where? That's different than the contractual deed restriction. They're independent of each other. So if the deed restriction was lifted, the property owner is still fully subject to the zoning requirements that are in that zone as presently constituted. If a redevelopment area was passed, and you can do that with condemnation, without condemnation, or an area need to be, there's many different options, and they're different things. Everyone's talking about them like they're the same thing, they're three different things. If that happened, then the zoning would be different, but the deed restriction was still in place, would still restrict it to those uses. So they operate independently, if that makes sense. What you're talking about now is a study about whether the zoning is appropriate, and the deed restriction is a separate issue for that particular parcel. If that makes sense. So you basically, for the property owner, ideally you would have free zoning and no deed restriction, obviously, you can do anything you want with your property. But they operate independently, if that makes sense. They both happen to be in the hands of the borough, because the borough is the contracted party in the deed restriction. But let's say hypothetically it was someone else, it was Mr. Jones had that deed restriction on the property. Well, that property owner would be subject to Mr. Jones's deed restriction and the borough's zoning regardless. It becomes confusing because the deed restriction is with the borough as well, but they're two completely separate independent things.
Okay, but if the deed restriction gets lifted, and you get a big contractor in there that's willing to fight the town, and they could put another Brighton Arms up there.
They would still have to come.
Okay, all things being equal, what we're talking about right now, no. If you add the layer of affordable housing regulation on top of that, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
that's a whole other discussion for a whole other day, I'd imagine, here, and there'll
But
probably
if
be a
you
lot
have
more
federal
people.
money backing it, they'll get what they wanna get, and put in what they wanna put in, as far as
As a lawyer, practicing
affordable
lawyer in the state of
housing.
New Jersey, ma'am, I will tell you that the people with more money typically get their way in court. That is a
There
fact.
you go, okay.
How that relates to this is, up to you guys to decide.
I don't think there's any other land in Neptune City that has that much property that that somebody could buy to build on.
I don't live here, so, everyone's court 59 years, I've lived here for 0 years.
I've lived
so
here
I'm
for
not
over
entirely
50,
sure whether that's true or
so-
not, but that's up to your government, your elected officials to figure out.
Thank you.
So it can happen.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else? Oh, Bill wants to, well, I'll close the hearing.
Yes, I'll make
comments,
just
I ask a motion to close the hearing. Offered by Mr. Wardell, second by Mr. Kosis. All in favor? Aye.
Very simple comment. The state has reviewed our budget and we can adopt it without any amendments. The budget is within both caps. The levy cap, we're $750,810 below that. Appropriations cap, we're $342,543 below that. Amount to be raised by taxes is the same as last year. The average taxes for most residents should be about the same. Actually, it's a decrease of about $6 for the municipal rate this year. There's been no reduction of services for the residents with this budget. We do continue a number of items. We have, all of our debt is held internally. We don't pay any interest on any of our debt in the municipality. And also, we're continuing, in the budget, there's additional money to make more of our records online and to put them in digital format. Basically, my comment.
Thank you.
So Neptune City's debt
And
free.
increased services for same amount of money.
Basically, they add stuff to put this stuff in digital format, and that we started out last year, we're continuing that this year, so people can look online. It's a long process.
Okay. Now I'd ask for a resolution to approve or reject the ordinance.
May I make one more comment about the budget?
It's closed.
Just close it?
Need that motion? A resolution to approve the 2019 budget. By Ms. Lewis,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Calhoun. Any comments? We have an opportunity now, is your opportunity to talk. Once the voting starts, there's no opportunity.
Okay, I'd like to, well, before I vote, I'd like to at least give my reasons how I plan on voting. I've already given my displeasure to the $40,000 increase to hire a planner. I'm not gonna delve into any more. Oh man, it is tough. Participatory budgeting, all right, I find it to be highly irresponsible. I'm not, because I think it's, all right, let me back up a little bit, all right? So we're talking about earmarking $20,000 with no plan. It has no plan, over 6 years. Now, if you look, it's just 20,000, no, it's 120,000. So just we're all understanding here, it's 120,000. It's a lot different than 20,000, all right? And nobody in Neptune City privately, I think private property pays $20,000 in taxes. So no, you're not covering it. I don't think there's a single home, except for maybe the new one there on by the river, maybe.
Yeah, there's a few that are really, really close.
Yeah, really close, right? So, but that doesn't matter, it's still all our money. You know, just because you pay more in taxes doesn't mean that you have more of a right to say where your taxes go than somebody else, right? The point is, guys, is that no town does this, and I think for a reason, no town does it outside of Freehold Borough. I mean, that's our model we're following here, is Freehold Borough, right? Now, just doing a little bit of research about Freehold Borough, and Mr. Carey brought this up as well, I was gonna point out, they are $8.9 million in debt, with a $17 million budget. So that means more than 50% of their total budget is debt. Right? Last year, Freehold Borough paid $104,000 in interest. That's money that went directly to banks' coffers. Now, Neptune City pays that much in interest. None. Now, I'm not saying that this today is going to cause this, but in my opinion, this type of government moving forward will create this problem. Now, we have a 0% increase in our tax levy this year for the 5th year in a row, which I'm very proud of. I'm involved in 3 of those, right? But I don't think we understand that, you know, we don't need to budget for more money than we spent before. We're talking an additional $40,000 that we did not spend last year, and budget for additional $20,000 that we did not spend last year. So in my opinion, that's an additional $64,000, because we also paid $4,000 a line item for a planner that we did not pay last year as well. That's $64,000 additional. Just because it didn't increase our tax levy doesn't mean it's the right move to do, is the way I feel about this. I think this is poor planning moving forward. Now, I understand, I've heard people say we save money in professionals. Well, I've yet to see that number actually prove that we save money in professionals. And if we did, I assure you it's not $64,000 that we save in professionals. And I also need to remind this governing body that we had to pay for 2 administrators for 2 months in this city. So I don't think we saved a single dollar. I think we spent more money on professionals this year than we did last year. Now, when Mr. Underhill was not reappointed on the 1st of January, he had a 2-year contract, and people here are not familiar with this. According to his contract in state law, he gets paid for 90 days, regardless of whether you retain him or not, which includes also his salary and his benefits. Now, I don't know if you realize, but the borough administrator is one of the higher paid employees in town here. And this is not anything about Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell applied for a job that was duly put out there. This has nothing to do with him. But we had to pay Mr. Russell and his benefits while we paid Mr. Underhill and his benefits. When Mr. Underhill agreed to stay on during that 90-day period, we still decided not to. Right? That was irresponsible. I've just seen irresponsible decision after irresponsible decision. I hate. I cannot get behind this. And I'm sorry, I don't scoff at $20,000. I don't scoff at $40,000. I don't see the benefits of spending $40,000. I don't see the outcome. I don't see a finished plan other than we'll have an idea afterwards. I don't think that's the way we do things. And participatory budgeting, I mean, you know, if you have a savings plan, you know, savings account, many people don't these days. But if you do, I mean, who goes to it, takes out $5,000, $10,000, and what do you want to do with this? What's your plan? You want, we'll make a decision. I'll tell you what, well, let's let the kids vote. How do I vote? I would live in Disney. All right, we would live there. And I kind of see the same way, and I know, John, I see you shaking your head, and we just disagree. It's okay. It's okay, we disagree. That's the way I view this.
I just wish you would've said something when we had the public participation.
I've already
Now,
said
we
this
can talk
numerous
about it.
times, right?
Yeah, this is
not,
council's making.
yeah, this is not the first time I've made these comments. I'm going to vote tonight, and I don't want the story written of how I voted by somebody else. This is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is about responsible government. The people of Neptune City voted for me in 2018 to make decisions for this town. They gave faith in me to say, I trust Andrew Waddell to make the best decisions for my town. And this is what I think is the best decision. And I do not agree with these two added items that we are adding to our budget. It's just my personal opinion, but I don't want, we know how the social media works. Somebody might put something in, this is why Andrew Waddell voted the way he did. We know I'm running for mayor, it's no secret, we put it out there, right? And the season has already started. I want the reason why I'm voting to be public, so everybody knows there's no confusion on here. That's it, Mayor. Sorry, I've long.
I have a comment. I'm probably the most senior guy up here. I've been here 9 years. And as long as I've been here, we've been fiscally responsible, for the borough. You know, we were elected by the people to sit up here and make fiscally responsible decisions. I love Neptune City. I raised my family here in Neptune City. I want nothing better but the best for Neptune City. But I agree with everything Mr. Wardell is saying. I mean, it's worked the way we've done it in years past. We've held a zero tax rate increase for how many years in a row? So we're doing all the right things. Let me reverse this. If last year, when we were voting and we were controlled by our, the Republican board, would anybody have said, would anybody have been up in arms if we proposed this to add $120,000 to our budget? Would anybody,
You want to get out? No.
I mean, well,
The
it's not,
idea,
we're not,
no,
we
I'm
get
sorry.
to make comment, and then we're gonna go.
Okay.
I apologize.
Sorry, I'm following the rule, cause
Yep.
I'll have
Okay.
somebody question me on it, so I don't need,
No,
but I need to,
no.
everybody gets their opportunity to speak, and this is it.
Yep. Sorry, Mr.
That's okay, I just. Are you good? I'm good. Okay. What else?
So I would just like to say that it's not going to be done irresponsibly. We will have oversight as an entire council into the rules and regulations of this plan. And I have confidence that our people in this town have more ideas than just us. How arrogant to think we only have the ideas.
Hold on.
Right?
Hold on.
You called it
Hold on.
irresponsible, I get to say arrogant.
You just called me arrogant.
Well, really, everybody here loves this town, right? That's what we have in common. And we're all looking at doing the same thing, just differently. That's all.
That's
We
fine.
all want it, the best for the town, so we're gonna write a plan that has rules and regulations because it exists in other areas. So there will be guidelines. And
One
if
area.
the 14-year-old, excuse me, but if the 14-year-old wins, then that means because the whole town supported that idea. Not because we all want to live in Disney World, because I do too. But the idea is that everybody gets to propose a plan. So if it's not the 14-year-old's plan that gets chosen, it's the 65-year-olds or the 80-year-olds. It doesn't matter. It means that we're all working on it together. And you know what? After year one, if we find it's a total failure, we tried and we quit. You don't have to commit to the 6 years you keep talking about for the $120,000. We're committing to 1 year to try to engage our public, to come up with a small idea, to try to get them involved in our process. And if that works, good for us. If it doesn't, lesson learned, and we move on. I'm sure we have made mistakes as a town before. And as far as the redevelopment plan, if we get this plan, we don't own it after that. We pass it to the land use board. They still have all the control there. There's nothing that changes this whole aspect. We can just give them our vision. If they don't enjoy the vision, the idea is then we've got to change that master plan. Why do we have a master plan that we don't even look at or consider? Other towns treat their master plan like a Bible. We ignore it and say, yeah, of course we all want that. Yeah, we do want that. So let's try something. And if it doesn't work again, we'll try something else. But we can't give up. We have to just keep trying. That's No, not $40,000. And you know what? That's a budget item. It may not cost $40,000.
Okay,
But
this
wait,
is, public participation is over.
What's your name?
But
Excuse me,
what
one
if it
meeting.
doesn't cost 40,000? Do we feel better if it was 15,000? It's just the plan, we don't know what it is. Right, but we put a ceiling, we said 40 is the cap, we can never go above that. But that's how you move forward, right? We all want the same thing, we just wanna do it differently. So I will support
Thank you.
this because I think it's, you know, it's something that I believe in and I believe all of you support.
First of all, no, I need a response, okay? All right. Now, do I think this kind of action is irresponsible? I do. I think this kind of action is responsible. I do. I not once said I don't think anybody in this town is smart enough to come up with ideas, and I would never shut down an idea in this town this notice. If somebody had an idea they want to bring it forward to me, I would be willing to listen to it. This is not arrogance, all right? To call me arrogant and to personally attack me, I think is just wrong, all right? What I'm saying is I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a responsible action that the governing body takes place. I didn't say you were irresponsible or you were irresponsible. I didn't call anybody arrogant, all right? So that's a little unfair to call me arrogant because I disagree with your plan of action.
But this is a new idea, and you
I know it's a new
support
idea.
new ideas.
I do support new
We
ideas.
came up with
Not every
two
new idea is a good
little
idea,
things
Ms. Lewis.
in this
And I don't think
area.
this new idea is a good idea.
Okay.
I don't think it is. It's not arrogance, that's my opinion,
And that
which
is
I'm
what
entitled to.
we both get to have our own opinions.
We do.
We're a nice mix.
I know what your
of
opinion would be.
boards,
This
so
is,
we
all right,
represent
it's
everyone.
comment by council, not argument by council.
Right, I
Does
apologize.
anybody else on council have a comment pertaining to the budget?
I just wanna add on the participatory budget, we don't have to stick with the 14-year-old, I think we discussed that as a meeting, we could set our own age perimeter. We could do 16, we could do 18. We set our own rules, basically.
So I guess I'll go next. And I'll start out by coming to Councilperson Lewis's defense a little bit.
But we may comment on the budget, not against anybody else or.
No, not at
what
all.
this attorney
My
means.
simple thing is gonna say, I don't believe that Councilperson Lewis meant to call Councilperson Wardell arrogant. I believe she's meant to say that the idea itself, that we don't think that anybody else has any better ideas. That the idea of that is arrogant, not him personally. That's my opinion. So that was the first thing I had. The other thing is that, much like everybody else up here, I would like to serve the people too, at least by a portion of them. And like Mr. Patronki said, you're not gonna agree with everything that I have to say, but that's okay. At the end of the day, I want what's best for the town as well. I have a little more faith in the community than some others do, but again, that's my opinion. So in the interest of planning for where we wanna be in the next 25 years, everyone will see how I vote on the budget. That's it.
Thank you.
I think I'll go last. Is the second senior most member of council. I've been on council since January of 2015, and this budget in particular, today's public hearing has been the most civic engagement I've seen since I've been on council, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And as far as this budget goes, and the particular line items that are causing controversy, I think it's wonderful, hearing everybody's opinion. I'm kind of hearing equal sides, basically, and I do understand the fear. You know, there's some new things, and new things are oftentimes fearful, but they can also be exciting, you know, looking forward. And basically that's what they're doing, is they're looking at our town's future and smart redevelopment, and that's why, you know, we would like to have a planner take a look at smart redevelopment, because there've been some boo-boos in the past, and we don't want those same boo-boos, you know? So we would like to move forward in a positive direction and hopefully generate a lot more revenue for our town, so that our taxes don't go up, so we're not in debt, so we can keep a flat budget. Those are the plans, you know, that's what we're looking for as a vision. And also, for this redevelopment plan, we would like more transparency and like more involvement, and to hear from the town as for what everybody would like to see in that particular area. So as far as there was a question about the vision, which is gonna come up later, I'm sure, we want to have open public meetings so that residents can express their opinions as far as what they would like to see for a vision for this town. And that's what this $40,000 is going towards. And as Councilwoman Lewis had mentioned, it's just a budget line item. It doesn't mean we're going to spend all that $40,000, it might not take that much for the plan.
But you're still collecting it from the taxpayers.
Hold on. So, all right, council has made a comment. We have a first and a second, and it's my opportunity to speak now, I will speak last. So, other than age, Joe, I got you by seniority, but, this will be my last budget meeting. I've spent a couple more years on here than pretty much everybody else. It's combined. So it's been a real pleasure to be able to preside over budgets here in Neptune City. I did have the opportunity to be the mayor under the last multiple flat municipal tax rate. Not only is there no history of municipal tax rate, hopefully I'm leaving, maybe somebody can break the record of this many years in a row. Because we do, and I love Neptune City. We've done a lot here in Neptune City. Drive around, leave your neighborhood. Don't just go look at what you want to find blighted. There's a lot more than what's just blighted in Neptune City. Go enjoy all the things that we have done in the budgets that we've created here. You know, our parks, those you know, Joe Frieda Park. You know, that wasn't participatory, if I don't care if I said it right. So that park's been redone again with new playground equipment. Memorial Park, there's many other areas, all the roads, the sidewalks that we've done. And that's all about the budgets that we've been able to do. We've been able to do that. We've added police officers, we've added resource officers, we've added equipment for our departments, technology for our police department, our fire department, and it's all over this governing body working together. And at the end of the day, you know, everybody is concerned about the best interest in Neptune City and our taxes. So that being said, I do have a couple of comments. It is nice to see everybody participating in a budget process. Mr. Manny, thank you for participating this year. You know, I just want to talk about Freehold Borough. So, the participatory budget process. I just talked about our flat municipal tax rate. These gentlemen, a couple other people did some research too on and as I said from the day one when it was mentioned, I don't necessarily think that the concept is a bad idea. I disagree with the process. In almost 20 years serving this borough as some sort of position, from zoning, land use, council, and now the mayor for the past 9 years. I've never, and there's only one other town that does it, takes tax dollars, puts it aside, all right? And for those of you who keep hearing, well, it's not gonna increase the budget, it's not, well, it potentially is tax dollars, so I don't care how you wanna let it, it's spending tax dollars, okay? So, I just wanna make sure that this governing body, and I appreciate the gentleman that came here tonight, but I'll be honest with you, if I was a elected official in Freehold Borough, and I was putting $200,000 up, and I would recommend anybody go read their APP article, they're $8.9 million in debt. I think $200,000 is a good way, maybe to keep the residents' eyes off the ball. Because to have be more than half of your municipal budget in debt, I sure hope that we don't want to emulate Freehold Borough. We've worked very, very hard to keep this borough financially, fiscally sound, and our CFO has said in the past, probably the most fiscally sound town that he's worked in. He's very proud of us. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I'll be sitting out there next year. So, roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
No.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
No.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Cadlow?
Yes, or yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Resolution number 19-123, resolution authorizing tax appeal settlement regarding 98 West Sylvania Avenue, also known as Block 60, Lot 24 for tax year 2015.
Thank you. Would somebody like to offer that?
So offered.
Offered by Mrs. Lewis. Second. Seconded by Mr. Calhoun.
So for the public's benefit, the resolution states how much money this would actually cost the borough, which is nominal in relation to litigation expenses, and therefore, I recommended that the borough settle that tax appeal.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you. You got the
Yes.
resolution 19-124, lifting the.
So this is, resolution 19-124, it's canceling the reverter clause on the deed for 7 Overbrook Place in Neptune City, New Jersey, to enable a private property sale, between 2 arm's length buyers.
Okay, does everybody understand that?
I'll go to offer that.
It's already offered. No, it's offered by Ms. Renee. Second by Mr. Zajac. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Oh, we can look at that.
They're my new neighbors.
Resolution 19-125.
So this is, resolution 19-1, I'm sorry, you have to forgive me, the reason that we're reading these is because they were decided, I'm reading them out loud, they were decided in the executive session, and therefore there's not a written resolution available for the public to review, so I'm telling you what they are, and so you understand what they're voting on. They'll be memorialized after the meeting. This is a resolution appointing an acting borough clerk and a deputy clerk. This would appoint, Mr. Russell as the acting borough clerk for a term of 1 year, insofar, and also Mr. Al Jardine as the deputy clerk, for 1 year. Oh, forgive me, and office manager for 1 year as well.
Okay, would somebody like to offer that?
I'll offer that.
Offered by Mrs. Lewis. Second. Second by Mr. Kosis. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zajac?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Wardell?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes. Resolution is
No,
adopted.
no. Mrs. Lewis?
Oh.
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Sorry. That's all.
You sure? Resolution is adopted. Okay. All right, now we're at public participation. Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on anything that has not already been heard? Yes, give the name and address for the record,
Yeah,
please.
Arlene Sharapa, 14 Tucker Drive. As most of you on the council know, the residents of Neptune City have formed the Neptune City Homeowners Association. Right now, we have about 250 people who participate on Facebook, and we also have about 30 people who have attended the meetings. We're hoping we'll have more. What we would like to do is, we'll probably be coming up with different ideas that we'll vote on, and we would like to be able to bring those ideas to the council, and I know you've talked about getting input from the residents in town, so we would like to establish, as you have a liaison from the Board of Education, if we could have a liaison from the Neptune City Homeowners Association to come to the council meetings on a regular basis and just inform the council of anything that we might want to bring to your attention.
Sure, thank you. You're always welcome to come to a meeting. There's always an opportunity for you to speak.
Okay.
So whether if you get as a liaison or not, you're always welcome to come to a meeting and speak.
Okay, I think the liaison would probably be speaking officially on behalf of the group as opposed to speaking as an individual. So that would just be the difference. And I think probably, you'll still see a lot of other residents coming that are on the Neptune City Homeowners Association as well. So,
Okay.
thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Yes, young lady.
Jen Coombs, Citizen Media, I got 2 questions. We gotta bring canines to the police department to help out with the different investigations, because I know that's a great asset that various police departments within Monmouth County uses.
I have our chief here, I would love, chief, would you talk about how we do our shared service and our relationship with our surrounding towns with canines?
Yes, we request canines from different agencies like the Sheriff's Office and Avon Police Department. And there's a host of other agencies that have canines that are available very quickly to work, so we can use them.
I don't want to name a police officer, but I did talk to a police officer from Neptune City. I know this is unofficial, but they said it would be much more if they really have a canine on staff. I don't know how you.
Okay, well, I'll talk to that police officer to make sure they speak to me instead of somebody else.
Yeah, unofficial. It's unofficial. That's why it's unofficial.
Well, everything with the police is official.
Yes. Another question. What's the vision of Neptune City coming from the mayor and council at this point? Mr. Calhoun, you start.
Oh, because I'm on the end, you're gonna pick on me?
Yes.
I think I pretty much stated it. I'm looking for where we're gonna be in 25 years. I'd like there to be a lot of public participation. I'd like there to be a little more development, a little more thought processes put into what we do and why we do it. That's it.
And I love the master plan, I think it was greatly thought out, and it just hasn't really had any power behind it. I'd like to see a walking, biking community. We are a square mile, so it's attainable for all of us at all levels of exercise, so, you know, we just need things to walk to, besides our beautiful parks and beaches. You know, maybe we wanna walk and have coffee, and walk and have, you know, a meal or something, but I think that we could be, a pretty, I don't know, mobile town, less cars, more walking and biking. I'd love to see biking. Talk about that a little bit too. I'd like to see that.
Mrs. Yates?
I'd just like to see it continue, be a nice small town where people, young families can move in, raise their children. Hopefully our school system will improve, where it attracts more homeowners. Again, it's just a place where I raised my family, and I would just like to see that continue.
Mr. Brown?
I get to always go last.
No, I'm asking you point blank.
It's not your meeting, honey. I still get to be in charge for a little bit.
Mine pretty much matches Mrs. Lewis and Mr. Zajak's word for word almost.
Go.
Me or Pam?
Pam.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
The reason I bought my house here is because this small town, homey feel. I love it. I lived in Asbury Park before I moved here, and it was too busy, too crazy for me. I rented there. I bought my house here because I love it here. And I would like to see our town continue to be able to flourish without taxes going skyrocketing. I don't want us to go into debt, and that's why I'm for the smart redevelopment, so that we don't go into debt, we don't have vacant properties continuing to be vacant. I've been listening to residents for over 5 years now, what they would like to see. And as far as the town center goes, that's been in the master plan for 20 years. And I love the idea of a town center for residents to walk to bike to and from. I like the idea of maybe electric scooters. If we have the bike pass, they can take electric scooters to and from the ocean, to and from the park, to and from the coffee shop. I love the ideas. Lots of people have had other ideas for children, you know, like an indoor mini golf. There's a lot of different ideas. But in the end game, I want the residents to decide what the whole vision is going to be. Those are just some of my things I would like.
Andrew?
Well, I mean, I think it's no secret how much I love this community. I'm third generation Neptune City. You know, they were up here, as you say, they were born and raised this town. I think I'm the only Woodrow Wilson graduate sitting up here as well. I would like to see this community stay the community that I grew up and loved very much. I like the fact that everywhere I went, I know my neighbors. I like to see that. I like to see, make sure we don't become a transient town here. I like to see people, move into here, start families here, and build their roots here. And I like to see our taxes remain low, and I like to see our services remain high. And I think that's my main goal in the future I see for Neptune City, is keep it a beautiful community that I think it is and always has been, and to keep our residents, in the life that they're used to and accustomed to, with the fantastic services that we provide for them here in town.
Can I say something? Sure. So I've only been here for 3 months. I'm not a resident, but this is one of the more combative council meetings that I come to. But it's also the town with the least amount of litigation. And I think it's largely due because of you guys all come here and hash it out. I mean, there's many other towns where I start with a conversation, starts with a complaint or a lawsuit, and that's not the case here. You guys have very little litigation or legal fighting in the courts with each other or with the town and other people, because you come here and do this, and sometimes I think it's uncomfortable for people, but I've been here for 3 months, and I think it actually is a benefit to your community, to be honest with you, that you all come here and do have a little bit of a combative council meeting, because you start with conversation versus starting with legal paperwork. And that's not the case in other towns. You might not know that, but it's not. In Red Bank, everything starts with a complaint, for example, because everyone's got a lawyer on speed dial. And here, you guys come here and talk it out, and I think it's uncomfortable sometimes, but I think it's a benefit for your town. So that's what I've observed in the last 4 months that I like about Neptune City.
If I'm actually going to piggyback on that, I think one of the reasons for that is because we are all neighbors. We all live as close as we do. I mean, we might get combative up here, but Mr. Callen and I, our kids are going to graduate elementary schools together. Ms. Lewis' daughter and my daughter were on Girl Scouts together. You know what I mean? So we have a history here. We may not disagree, but I hold no ill will against Ms. Lewis, Ms. Calhoun. I'm going to walk out here and say hello to him just like I always do. That's the beautiful thing about this town. We can disagree and still remain friends afterwards, right?
Yeah, let me say that. You guys do an excellent job of that. You guys also, and other towns, there's people who literally, I've seen people spit on each other after the meeting. And that never happens here, notwithstanding whatever happens in this room, and that's part of what I'm talking about. Depends how fast you are.
All right, so let's go pretty fast. So, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. Neptune City, this is my home. We raised our families here. That's what I want to see. I want Neptune City. I have no problem with change. Neptune City has changed. It's changed a lot over 50 years ago to 25 years ago to today. It's going to continue to change. And some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad. You have to take each bit of it, good and bad, make the best of it, work together. And again, come November, everybody has that opportunity. If you don't like what this governing body is doing, you get an opportunity every year to voice your opinion, and make a difference. Again, it's a pleasure serving on this borough. I like to think that we've done a great job here in Neptune City. We're going to continue doing a great job. And again, for what I came here for, raise my kids. My wife's never left, but that's what Neptune City is supposed to be all about. I watched all my kids go through. The other day, the participation that we share from our families, and not a lot of towns participate the way we do. Okay, in Neptune City, we really do. We had our Memorial Day parade. Although it's not huge going down West Sylvania Avenue, but you know what? Neptune City, we do it every year, no matter what. If there's 100 of us, we have Little League players or not, we still do it. We go down to the park. It was an amazing day. We participate in the National Special Olympics torch run. If anybody saw the flyers, I'll post a little bit. On the flyers for the National Torch Run, the picture on the front was my son Logan. So Logan was running, I think he's been running since he was in elementary school in the torch run. As long as they've been doing it here in Neptune City, Logan's been running in it. And he's gonna be a senior now, and he ran the other day. And
With Neptune City kids.
With Neptune City kids, they ran by the school, we got the kids involved. That's what Neptune City's about. So let's not forget that, and that's what I wanna continue to see. and world peace. All right, motion to adjourn. Wait, no, I got another question, yes, sir.
Yeah, I just thought, actually, Dr. Crawford reminded me, I am the head of the Historical Commission for the Borough of Neptune City, and as you're well aware, recently we acquired that cemetery down the street. And it certainly is in need of repairs, and that's going to cost money, and since I'm saying money, that includes the budgetary process. So I'm just trying to slip that under the
Right, take that under advisement.
Yeah. What I'd like to ask Mr. Russell, ask you, the mayor, it doesn't matter who I'm asking, if there's a possibility that we could get any type of grant funding for that cemetery. Does it exist? Is there anything that the mayor council could do to help our committee do the things it needs doing? Because that cemetery has been neglected for probably 50 years or more. So therefore, it's going to take a lot of work.
You mind if I elaborate on that a little bit? So,
You my guess?
several, about 3 years ago, I got word that there was somebody trying to sell the Bennett burial ground. A member of the Bennett family was negotiating a deal to sell the property. So many of you may not know where the burial ground is. It's up right by, behind Retro Fitness and 2006. Mahandru, but right up in that little corner. It's like in the middle of the parking lot. It's up on the hill. So it has been there for many, many years, since the 1800s and maybe even before that. It was always known as the Bennett Burial Ground. And it's not borough property. We had no right to do anything there. Although the Firemen's Exempt Association took care of it for many years. And unfortunately, a lot of those guys who took care of it, they're no longer with us either. So one of the things we went forward with, along with the historical committee that I created, and Mr. Wardell is the chairman, we petitioned the state to take possession of that property so that we can do this. And yet last year, we did finally get all of the final approvals, which we're gonna have to make all those up, because we need to really get that registered with the National Historical Society and the New Jersey State Historical Society, and see, it's perfect, it's a great idea. Let's see what kind of money we might be able to get and preserve that. Those are the original founders of Neptune City. There's two stones up there. One says Mother Bennett, one says Father Bennett. So there's it's a great history there, and hopefully we're going to keep moving forward. But thank you for all the other work you guys done.
I gotta tell you one thing, and this is one of the reasons I'm looking forward to this moving forward here, is I have done a little research. If you guys don't know, I'm a history teacher, so that's kind of this is my thing. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to history, so I've done a little research. And I believe that there are Revolutionary War veterans buried in that cemetery.
There's one.
Yeah, we know of one, but I think we don't know. We looked into getting ground penetrating radar, was one of the things we talked about.
Rutgers,
Yeah, Rutgers University, trying to figure out exactly how many bodies there were buried. It's really exciting. Like, it's really exciting news from Neptune City that we're getting all this. So I'm glad to hear we're moving forward here.
Yeah, Mr. Wardell is on the.
I forced my way on
that. And recently I put James Clayton, which, I don't know if you guys remember, former Sergeant Clayton. There are some Claytons in that cemetery, so I figured it'd be very, fitting to put him on. So thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to be heard?
If I could, Stacy Higgins, 29 Coastal Drive, Vice President of the Neptune City Homeowners Association. That's actually the kind of subject matter that we would like to encourage homeowners and residents of the town getting involved in and helping with that kind of an initiative too. So it would be great for you to even come to our meetings and explain that, and if we could even develop a committee around that to support whatever your initiatives are on that, that would be fantastic. I would,
I'm smiling because we could use all the help we can get.
I mean, even if it's a day where everybody rolls up their sleeves and, we go and attack. I have a couple of really beautiful ornamental cement benches. I can't figure out what to get, what to do with them.
Okay.
I'd love to donate them to something like that if they could be of use. But, if we could get the word out about that, I think that's really a great initiative.
We were Boy Scouts and the Eagle Scout project for them, but they're not allowed to use power tools.
All right, so let's do this. Why don't we
Thank you
have
for
us get together afterwards, exchange some information pieces. All right?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a quick update. The road sweeper will be going through town this week, zone 2 on Wednesday, zone 1 on Friday. Speaking of DPW, since the borough owns that cemetery now, do you think they can participate in the taking care of it?
The historical committee has got to have, they've got to go through the state because there's certain things you can and you can't do. You can't just go up there and start hacking stuff up and running things out. So
In the future,
yeah, in the future, yeah, but
Okay.
right now, it's a lot of research has to be done because we know there's possibly over 100 people buried in that very, very small section, and you have to be very careful. That's why I know you guys maybe talked about it a little bit.
If anybody's actually seen it, it's really like, I mean, we're talking an area that's like maybe 12
They're
by
stacked
12,
in
you
there.
can walk in, and then it's overgrown all around it, and we believe there could be bodies even further, bodies,
Remains.
remains, right, even further back, sounds so creepy, I know, they go even further back, you know, like, they're not bodies, okay? But, yeah, so like, we would love to be able to get that ground penetrating radar. I don't know, if I know, Mr. McKay had, reached out to me, he's on the committee as well. That's something we're gonna need, because there's nowhere to know who's buried, where they're buried there, and it looks like there's really no uniformity to how they were buried either. It's just kinda like, here's a spot, here's a spot, here's a spot. So
We
like-
don't know yet. because
Yeah,
it's so thick.
yeah, it's so thick up there. So like, it's really exciting, it is. That's why I'm kinda geeking out here. It's really exciting about what's going on.
And we'll keep everybody posted as the committee moves forward. We'll keep everybody posted on the progress.
I had one last thought, only because Mr. Petrucci and I, he might have mentioned that he spent the better part of Friday afternoon running around, putting flyers all over town for Mike Byrne on July the 20th. In the Memorial Park, there's gonna be a concert, so the flyers are downstairs. If people would like to take one.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to say thank you to Bill Antonides and to Councilmember Lewis for a job well done with the budget and the whole committee. Having the taxes flat again is a wonderful thing, and just your appreciation for all the time and effort that you put into it. And also, as far as the police department goes, just want to let everybody know, in case you haven't gotten the notice yet, via phone and text and email, if you were on the system where you got notifications about events taking place in the town, you probably got a notification about the new system. It's called Nixle. It's on our borough website. The old system is being done away with, so you will no longer be contacted about events in town and emergencies through the old system. So if you can go to our borough website, neptunecitynj.com, and there's a link you can click on just to get onto the new Nixle system so that you can be alerted of events or emergencies taking place in town. That would be great. The more people you talk to, please tell them about the Nixle system so that everybody's informed. That would be great. And just one final thing, Chief, if you wouldn't mind standing, I just want to congratulate you. You recently got an award from the 700 Club. Congratulations for that, and see if you.
The 200 Club.
The 200 Club, thank you. Yeah,
Inflation.
So if you would like to mention that at all and explain that.
Sure. Myself and Sergeant Cannell were commended by the 200 Club for the investigation, arrests and convictions of the brutal murder of Janelle Bell back from September 14, 2009. And also, Sergeant Wolbert was also commended by the 200 Club for his role in the investigation for the Sarah Stern homicide. I mean, it's very unfortunate that we would have to get recommended or commended for, doing police work in homicide cases, because the victims were, in both cases were both brutally murdered, and their families are going to suffer forever. And we kind of feel, a little uneasy about getting, recognized for something like that, but the 200 Club did recognize for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Need a motion to adjourn? Offered by second by Ms. Lewis, third by Dr. All in favor?